The interdisciplinary research that takes place at UT can help CII make sense of a lot of the challenges that we face now and really prepare us for the future as it evolves. We can continue to take advantage of the non-CII research too that many universities conduct and that are still related to the delivery of capital projects. Dr. Fernanda Leite is no stranger to CII. Over the years, she's led several successful project research teams and has served as an academic advisor to CII's Planning Committee and Technology Committee. More recently, she's been leading research in a major initiative called Planet Texas 2050. She's here today to present some of that research that she conducts out of UT Austin and share some insights for us in our industry. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Fernanda Leite, the newly appointed Associate Dean of Research at the Cockrell School of Engineering at UT Austin.
Thank you, Jody. And thanks for inviting me to talk a little bit about Planet Texas 2050. So I realized as I was walking over here that my color choice wasn't that great if I'm representing the University of Texas. My father's an Aggie. He'll have a field day when he sees these photos. So at least I've got that going for me. Okay. So before I get started in talking about Planet Texas 2050, I wanted to acknowledge the long-term collaboration between the University of Texas at Austin and CII. So this history goes since the inception of CII, when Richard Tucker had the vision of bringing together leading industry members and academics to advance the capital projects industry. So fast forward, 40 years, I've been involved in CII for about 15 years, have been in about 10 different research teams. I've really enjoyed seeing many of my past research team members here today. So I'm glad to see that, and I know the impact that CII had in my own academic career as I developed as a researcher at the University of Texas at Austin. But just to put into context CII within the broader School of Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. So the Cockrell School is composed of 7 departments and 17 organized research units, of which CII is one of those organized research units. I know a lot about CII, as you all know, but I'm still learning. I've got a lot to learn about these 16 other organized research units and all the other departments that I'm going to be interacting with a lot more in my new role. And like the University of Texas at Austin, CII has also been investing in more cross-disciplinary research. And that's important because we all know that cross-disciplinary research, bringing people with different backgrounds, with different knowledge bases, different tools, can really lead to innovation. And that's the value for the capital projects industry, is really to bring innovative thinking to our research projects here at CII. CII is also a member-driven organization and has been doing really, really well in listening to its member needs and interests. So when CII was created in 1983, the initial focus, and for many years, the historic focus was on safety. So you heard Jamie talking about the results of the latest safety survey earlier today. But more recently, our industry has been focused on energy transition and decarbonization. That's one of the reasons why you have been hearing these different talks at this year's annual conference. So Michael Weber talked about energy transition this morning. I'll be talking about resilience research. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, you'll have a member, it's a ground up approach. So members recommended a decarbonization panel, and that's going to happen tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So that shows how much CII listens to its members and caters, the research caters its content to what you all are interested in. And that's very important too. And I'm also pleased with the interest that RT 411 that's kicking off on Thursday. This is the Decarbonization and Capital Projects research team That had really, really high interest. I don't think any of my past 10 or so research teams have had this much interest, and that shows how much this topic is top of mind. So I'll talk a little bit about that later today too. But I'm here to talk about Planet Texas 2050. And a lot of people ask me, first question that they ask is, what does this mean, Planet Texas 2050? Well, the 2050 is the year in which the population in the state of Texas will double compared to the year when we launched, when we started our work in 2018. That's significant. So that rapid urbanization, rapid population growth will put a huge strain in our urban infrastructure systems. And I'll talk about what that means for the capital project industry in a bit. And what about this planet Texas? Do we really think we're a planet? Well, what's happening here in terms of extreme weather events, heat waves, droughts, flooding is a representative of what we're seeing around the globe. So we can learn and implement different innovations here, and that's going to impact what's happening in other urban areas around the world that are seeing the same stressors in their infrastructure systems. So our goal in Planet Texas 2050 is making Texas more resilient. That's our grand challenge. So when did this start, and what's the background between Planet Texas 2050? So in 2017, our past president of the university had launched this idea of let's change the culture of campus. Let's make campus more interdisciplinary. Let's enable our researchers to perform more cross-disciplinary research. So let's have a broad call for grand challenge or moonshot type initiatives that can only be solved if you bring together researchers from very diverse backgrounds. So the university received 125 proposals of moonshot initiatives, wicked problems, big, complex, cross-disciplinary problems. They sorted those out into 3 buckets. Planet Texas was one of them. And then they brought together a group of leaders across the university to then figure out, okay, here you go. Get started, figure out what you want to do and how are you going to solve this problem. And so we launched in 2018, and we initially had 8 research projects that were led by each of these leaders across the university. We wanted to bring additional expertise. We had a broad call for proposals across campus. We brought in 17 new research projects with many more researchers across campus. And then more recently, we converged into what we're calling now our 6 flagship projects, which I'll explain in a bit. And to put this into context, we're one of 3 UT Austin Grand Challenge initiatives. They're all 8 to 10 years in duration. And the reason why they're so long is because it takes a lot of time to learn to work across disciplinary boundaries. It takes a lot of time to learn new vocabularies, new methods. I've grown and changed as a researcher by being involved in Planet Texas and working with people from so many different colleges across campus. So we are focused on resilience research. That's our grand challenge. Whole Communities, Whole Health is focused on a longitudinal study of population health in a vulnerable community in Texas. And Good Systems is focused on ethical artificial intelligence. So these are the current 3 Grand Challenge initiatives on campus. Now, how do they operate? So we operate like a startup company. We receive funds from our university's provost office, but beyond the funds that covers funding for our PhD students, postdocs, researchers, equipment, materials for all of the research that we're doing, we also get a lot of support for proposal writing, a lot of event planning support, because we do a lot of events and engagement opportunities across campus as well. So that means a lot, and that has led to a lot of successes in Planet Texas 2050 in the past 5 years. We have a variety of different focus areas in terms of the research that we do, from looking at environmental shocks and stressors in Texas metropolitan area. So we like to call them acute on chronic stressors. So populations that suffer from chronic stressors like poverty, food insecurity, And on top of that, they also suffer from acute stressors when a major hurricane hits. So these are the types of population that really suffer and have a harder time bouncing back when these major events take place. We also have researchers working with remote sensing and field studies to predict environmental change across a long period of time. And researchers with the Texas Advanced Computing Center, the largest supercomputer in any university across the world, which is at the University of Texas, they're developing integrated models for decision support. And also we're working with complex interactions of human and natural systems, so built-in natural systems. And finally, a lot of researchers working in community-engaged research to co-design directly with the stakeholders involved solutions for climate-resilient infrastructure. So we've had over 145 researchers so far involved in Planet Texas 2050, 40 departments, units across campus, and several stakeholders outside of the university involved as well. This is the leadership committee of Planet Texas 2050, so we set the direction of the research that's done in Planet Texas 2050, and you can see from where we are that we also represent different colleges across campus. So representatives from, for example, integrated biology, community and regional planning, engineering, archaeology, and climate science. So it's a wide variety of people that think in different ways, that have different research methods, different tools, and we're all working together to try to solve this one grand challenge. Our mission is to advance interdisciplinary research about resilience and co-design resilience strategies with stakeholder communities. And we have 4 domain areas that we focus on: urbanization, water, energy, and ecosystem services. I know you heard a lot about energy this morning with Michael Weber. I'm going to talk about the challenges of the energy-water nexus, which applies to many of you here in this room. So it takes a lot of energy to clean water, and it takes water to produce energy. So these are interdependent systems. And as demand increases for both of these systems, that puts a strain in the availability, and infrastructure becomes a major concern. With more frequent and more intense extreme weather events, rising temperatures, and population growth, that also can lead to disruption in these systems. Many of you have experienced, if you live here in Texas, Winter Storm Uri in February of 2021 and the impact that had in energy systems failure and water systems failure. We also have competing demands and sustainability issues. For example, various sectors other than the construction industry, the capital projects industry, also need energy and water to produce their products, like agriculture, manufacturing, municipalities. So that's going to need to, we're going to really have to rethink and think more in innovative ways of how to deliver policy, technology, and collaborate more effectively with other sectors so we can solve these challenges here. Within Planet Texas, we focused on many different research arenas, and you can see some of the categories here. Under each of these research arenas, there are probably about 5 to 15 different projects, small projects that took place in each of these. I'll give you an example of one that I was involved in called the Texas Futures Virtual Reality Experience. So some of you in the room may remember Bing Han. He was also part of CII virtual reality research team. And he was involved in the Texas Futures Virtual Reality Experience project as well. So this is a unique project in which we took output from multiple Planet Texas 2050 research projects, and we created a virtual reality experience to enable stakeholders to engage with research output in an interactive way. So instead of hearing about a research results like you are right now via PowerPoint presentation and me speaking over these slides, you would be interacting with these research results in this immersive environment. So what you see there on the left, this is us trying to teach the concept of imperviousness to a broader audience. So you would see that animation of imperviousness, then you would play a game to connect different concepts that relate to imperviousness. Then you would watch a little video that explains what imperviousness meant. And we did that with several different concepts. And then you walk to another edge of this virtual lab that we built, and you would see this interactive Texas map that had a slider bar, and you could see predictions of population growth and water availability up to 2050, and how different strategies could impact the availability of water in the state in the next few decades. So far, Planet Texas 2050 has funded 25 different research projects and has, like I said, engaged over 140 researchers in 40 different colleges. We also fund graduate level courses. So I taught sustainable systems engineering for a few years, and we also have a graduate seminar in Planet Texas 2050. And the idea is to bring students from across different disciplines and different colleges together to solve sustainable systems related issues. And it's interesting that in my sustainable systems engineering course, I had students from all over campus, not just engineering, but communications, even a student from theater and dance. And that was pretty cool to see them working together and solving different systems problems and locations around campus. We use those funds that we received from the UT Provost's office to be able to leverage them and start the research and then apply for bigger grants. So far in the first 5 years, we were able to secure $25 million in external grants from a variety of sources, including DARPA, the National Science Foundation, and the Department of Energy. So we've converged now. Our current setup in Planet Texas 2050 are our 6 flagship projects. You can see that there's a variety of themes here in these 6 flagship projects. So Stories of Ancient Resilience is focused on learning from past societies, how they thrived, or some of them thrived and some of them vanished in face of changing climates. Then you have biodiversity and changing landscape. These are leveraging different sensing technologies and observations to see how species are moving about as there are different changes in the environment. Sustainable Texas Communities is co-designing sustainable solutions directly with vulnerable communities. Networks for Hazard Preparedness and Response is actually modeling different flooding solutions in vulnerable communities and looking at neighborhood scale modeling as opposed to regional scale modeling. Integrated modeling for complex decision-making with artificial intelligence is performing model integration. So we're developing what's called a knowledge management platform with the Texas Advanced Computing Center, where we're integrating many of these different models, from qualitative models to quantitative models, where all of our researchers can then learn from and extrapolate that knowledge beyond their own individual projects. And I co-lead with a colleague in community and regional planning the Equitable and Regenerative Cities in a Post-Carbon Future flagship project. In this project, we look at implementing circular economy in urban systems. So we're scaling up the concept of circular economy. So what does this all mean for the capital projects industry? Well, rapid population growth really intensifies environmental challenges and puts additional pressures on the finite resources that we have to build our infrastructure systems, and that's going to lead that's going to exacerbate carbon emissions in the future. We really need to understand that this increased demand for infrastructure due to population growth will lead to higher construction activities. 50% of all of the infrastructure systems that we will need by 2050 hasn't been built yet. So there's a lot of opportunity for the capital projects industry to impact the future of construction. And CII, as a leader in construction safety, has a lot to be able to positively impact the delivery of these future projects. Capital projects also in densely populated areas face greater vulnerability to extreme weather events, like we saw with Hurricane Harvey in 2017 in Houston. So embracing sustainable practices really creates new opportunities for innovation and growth in the capital project sector. So think about these challenges as opportunities that we can lead the way into the future of capital projects delivery. So I mentioned circular economy, so you might have remembered that RT380 reported out last year. This was the circular economy research team that I co-led with Professor Carl Haas from the University of Waterloo. So just a little primer if you haven't heard this term before. Circular economy is just trying to shift the mindset from a take, make, use, dispose model to a circular approach in which waste can be considered a resource. So we're trying to eliminate waste and pollution, and this applies to our capital projects as well, to keep materials and products in circulation for a longer period of time, and therefore we're minimizing waste and regenerating nature. So that's the general concept of circular economy. In RT380, what we did, among the many other things that we did in that project, but one of the outputs was a global scan of 81 companies in the built environment. And we looked at what kinds of business models were they implementing related to circular economy. So you can see some of those business models here. The larger the bubble, the more frequent we saw that business model being implemented in these projects. And if you're interested in learning more or implementing circular economy in your organization, CII is considering creating a circular economy working group. So if you're interested, reach out to Daniel Oliveira. He can tell you more about this opportunity. And CII is also continuing to invest in this area, now with a new project that is kicking off this Thursday, RT411. This is on decarbonization of the capital projects delivery. So we're looking at developing strategies to decarbonize the delivery of capital projects and to also develop a methodology for carbon tracking on capital projects. So you heard this morning Michael Weber talking about a taxonomy of decarbonization. So he mentioned efficiency, electrification, green fuels, and carbon management. So that's why that second goal there is to focus on carbon tracking, because like we all in this industry will understand that we can't improve what we can't measure. So we need to be able to develop measurement systems to be able to track embodied carbon in these projects. So these are going to be the major goals there of RT411. We'll be reporting out in 2 years. And I was really, really pleased to see the high level interest in this research team as well. So if you want to talk about more about this project, you can reach out to me or Chris Rauch. He's somewhere here over there in the back of the room. We'll both be hanging around at this conference. Oops. Okay, last slide here. So to conclude, the capital projects industry has a major role to play in shaping sustainable development by delivering resilient infrastructure solutions. Through sustainable design, construction, and operations, capital projects can contribute to a more sustainable future for communities worldwide. And you're seeing the picture here of a little girl. You might have seen her hanging around at this conference, the youngest conference attendee today. Julia, this is my daughter, and she's my motivation, right? I want to make sure that she has a thriving future with the resources that are needed to continue building sustainable and thriving communities in the future. Just a little side note, Julia's first CII conference was at the age of 4 months, so she might have attended more CII conferences than many of you here in this room. She's 7. We also have a role to play in embracing innovation and green technologies. So by embracing innovative technologies such as renewable energy, green infrastructure, green building materials, and smart infrastructure, this will enable our industry to reduce its carbon footprint and environmental impact. Notice that there's not one solution, one thing that we can do. We really have to think in a holistic way, in a systems approach, to be able to really reduce our carbon footprint and environmental impact. And finally, by investing in sustainable practices, the capital projects industry can really lead the way towards a more environmentally conscious and resource-efficient global economy. And I'll conclude by saying that I know that this group here is capable of doing that, of really changing this culture in this industry, just like we did with safety. So CII is the safety leader and changed the entire culture in the industry with regards to safety. And we can do the same with environmental delivery and more resilient delivery of capital projects. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it back off to Jody.